I worked so hard for this. I spent so much time, I spent so much money to get into this nursing program. And now I'm just gonna give up on it. If you're feeling burnt out from your corporate job, feeling lost in college, not sure what you want to do with your life, watch this video and I'll tell you how I dropped out of college, started a business, and quit to start all over again. Hi, my name is Xiao, and I wanted to talk about my experience quitting things and dropping out of school. Quitting is always seen in a negative light, but I personally believe that you shouldn't hold on to things that no longer serve you. I'm only 26, so everything that I'm about to tell you happened in the span of 6 or 7 years. I went through quite the roller coaster, physically, emotionally, and mentally. I had no idea what I was doing, and to be honest, to this day, I'm still learning, so let's get into it. So let's do a little backstory, and the story starts when I'm in high school. I was a huge nerd. I had good grades, I had very high grades, and this was a huge thing for me and my peers, and I think my schoolmates conditioned me a lot. For context, I went to high school in East Vancouver, so most of my classmates were like all Asians. And actually, when I started high school, that was the same year that school got a brand new principal, and he basically nerfed the school. Like, he kicked out all like the bad kids, and it was just like nerds left over. And so my schoolmates, they had a lot of impact on me because they were the only people I knew, so they were kind of my whole life. So I always got good grades, and my parents, being lower income class Chinese immigrants, placed a lot of emphasis on getting good grades and getting a good career, like the whole shebang. So naturally, I adopted this mindset that I have to get good grades in order to get a good job. And this was like the only thing that I knew, like the whole grades, degree, career pipeline. I was so young, and nobody in my life, aka my family and friends at school, talked about entrepreneurship and financial freedom or had any financial literacy. Nobody was educated in that department, so I didn't know that this was a thing or like an option. I didn't really know that this existed. So school and job, that was like the main focus, or really the only option. I met a Tumblr friend in high school, and she was like the dream Asian daughter. She just studied all the time, she got good grades, she was a nice girl, and I think she was a year or two older than me, and she was kind of like my role model, I guess, being the only older friend I had. And she told me that she wanted to be a nurse because it's science and it's stable income, it's a good job. The income was good, you're helping people and all these things. And being a science lover, because I had the highest grades in science, so I kind of made it my whole personality. And I thought nursing was the answer because at this point in high school, people kept talking about college and your future. So I thought I want to do science. And nursing is related to science. And I think there's so much pressure put on us at such a young age to determine your major and therefore the trajectory of your whole life. Because if you grew up like me, where you didn't really have the financial option to explore and switch majors all the time, it pretty much feels like you have to have your whole life figured out at 18. And once you pick one major, you kind of have to see it through to the end, which is so insane. And if I just describe what you're feeling, I just want you to know that you don't have to know what you're going to do in life. You don't have to have everything figured out. That's what your whole life is for, is to figure things out and enjoy the process. And if you've ever wondered, what is the meaning of life, I just answered it for you. It's to figure things out and enjoy your life. So that was my mindset in high school and going into college. So at this point, I already mapped out the next 4, 5, 6 years of my life, which was to do the nursing prerequisites, get into the nursing program, become a nurse. Okay, so let's talk about college. When I got there, I think I had a year or two where I was fully committed to this plan because I took science courses, and so many other people in my science classes had the same plan as me. So we were kind of like hyping each other up, and we were all new and ambitious, and college was exciting. So, like we were all in this together, and it was kind of fun. Oh, and nursing in Vancouver is for some reason so competitive. Like, we have a whole shortage of nurses, but for some reason, the program is so difficult to get into, and you have to take so many prerequisite courses. I think it took me like 2 years to complete, all the prerequisite courses before being even allowed to apply to nursing. And it took me 2 years because I also had to like take summers off and also work during school, so I couldn't take too many classes so that I could pay for school. By the end of 2 years of taking all these random courses that didn't really seem relevant to nursing, I was like, to be honest, I was already pretty burnt out at this point. I studied so hard to make sure I had really high grades, higher than most people, to kind of like ensure that I would get a spot. And I didn't get in right after completing my courses, so I took extra courses like while waiting to get into the program. And it was so stressful. Like, maybe it was because I chose some science courses that were just so difficult for no reason. And I was so stressed out because I didn't even know if I was going to get into this program or not. Once I did get into the program, I was excited for maybe like 3 weeks. And like the whole lanyard, the scrubs, the stethoscope. Girl, I felt so cool. Like, yeah, I'm pretty much a doctor now. But like any other science or bachelor's degree, it's a lot and it's really exhausting. So that is my college experience before getting into nursing. Let's talk about why I dropped out. There were a few things leading up to my decision to drop out. I only lasted about 6 months in the actual nursing program, which is like less than 2 semesters. Like, I didn't even finish it. The first thing was that nursing in my head up until this point was just this glorified idea that I would have a respectable job and that people would think very highly of me, because nurses are like, it's a noble job. Like, you're saving lives, you know a lot about health. You're like a health professional, and people would think I was so smart. And at the time, obviously, I'm very young. I had very, very bad self-image and self-esteem issues. I'll talk more about that later in the video because I have a lot to say about that. Then I obviously, in nursing, you have clinicals where you pretty much like work for free, or actually you pay to work because you're paying for the tuition. So I started, showing up to clinicals and seeing the job for what it actually was. Like, surprise, surprise, it's not just some like, you wear the stethoscope, everyone thinks you're so cool, so smart, so health professional, whatever. Like, the actual saving lives part and helping sick people part is very not glamorous. And I sound so stupid. Like, why wouldn't I know that before going in, right? But girl, like, I was so young. Sometimes like you just don't really know what things are until you get into it and you're experiencing it firsthand. So the job is like very hands-on. You're going to be up in people's personal space, helping them do very mundane things that they aren't able to do themselves, like sitting up, going to the bathroom, eating. First of all, like, I'm really scared of people. I grew up with literally like crippling anxiety. It was so bad. I couldn't even hold a conversation with a stranger, or even like people I went to school with for over 5 years. I couldn't have a conversation with them because I was so scared. So bathing them and dressing wounds and things like that is kind of a nightmare for me. And I'm actually very happy that I tried it because I truly love science and health. I love to help people, but I just wasn't built for this. And I had a lot of problems myself, being so young, having no self-esteem and awareness, and also a lot of mental issues. I was absolutely in no position to be helping people this way. It was also so much mentally. I honestly have no idea why I wanted to do this profession, knowing that I would be surrounded by sick people. I guess maybe like I kind of knew, but then I was also too young to understand what the reality would be like, and that this would be my reality for a very long time if I decided to go down this path. Like, I would get into huge debt to get this nursing degree, and how else am I gonna pay it off later on but to work as a nurse for many years? And like, you're going to be surrounded by people who are sick and in pain. And if you're not mentally equipped to be in that type of setting, like, it's gonna be really difficult for you. And yeah, it's just not like a very happy work setting. I never even got to work in hospitals because I dropped out before we got to that part. I did work in old folks' home, and I already got like so emotional over just seeing, like when people are old and don't have the strength or ability to take care of themselves, like eating, showering, things like that, or when they're just like really lonely and they don't have family visiting them, or when they have like really bad dementia and they aren't themselves anymore, or when their family visits and see how much they're struggling or in pain because they have so many health complications, which is unavoidable when you get to a certain age. It was so much, and I made this career decision literally as a child. I had no idea what it was going to be like, and honestly, like, no idea what I was getting myself into, because at this point, I'm like this healthy kid and I've never been to a hospital before. And so I realized at one point that if I continued going down this path, this would be my life. I would have to commit to it, and that scared me so much because I realized this is not for me. I'm going to hate this. I was so mentally weak, I would not survive doing this job. And I think God was also giving me so many signs to quit and to drop out. Like, I missed my first hospital clinic because I slept in, and I have never slept in or been late like that badly before in my entire life. And I was so late. I'm talking about like 3 hours. And this happened not once, but twice. And my clinical prof like kept picking on me for some reason. Even my classmates would ask me if I'm okay because they were also like completely aware that she was picking on me. Like, I'm not being biased about this. So many things went wrong. I'm also the only student to ever get written up at that point, because the place I worked at had nurses that like didn't really help me when I needed help, and I didn't know where they kept like their laundry and stuff like that. And yeah, like, my prof was like, you could have got the whole school sued because of your mistake. I was so scared, bro. Like, this was so stressful. And I'm like, dude, like, I have to do a job that I hate and I'm scared of and stresses me out, and then I'm gonna have a lawsuit on top of that. Like, bro, this is way too much. Like, bro, I was just a student. I'm just a girl. I was just doing my best. Like, I don't know. So obviously, nursing became the lowest point of my life. Like, I've never been this stressed and depressed before in my entire life, because I was so torn. Like, I worked so hard for this. I spent so much time, I spent so much money to get into this nursing program. And now that I finally got in, I literally fought my way into here. Like, I was competing with so many of my classmates to get this spot, and I was the chosen one. They picked me, and now I'm just gonna give up on it. And I was also so scared of what my parents would say, because I felt like I was letting them down because they saw me as like their only hope. Like, my brothers never did well in school, only I did. So they thought like, oh, like, we still have Xiao, like, there's still a chance, At least we have one successful kid. I felt like I had a lot of pressure to succeed. And like I said, I had low self-esteem, yeah? So I was very, very concerned about what other people would think of me, that I was like a quitter or a failure. And my ego could not take that, girl. I was so sensitive. But thankfully, I forgot to mention, I met my boyfriend in college before getting into the nursing program, and he would kind of poke fun at me while I was in nursing. And I would be so mad when I told him like I had to wipe people's butt today at clinical, and he would say something like, oh, but this is what you want to do with your life, right? Obviously, anyone would be offended by that, But I was mostly mad because he was right. Like, I actually hated this, but I was gaslighting myself into thinking, this is my dream job. This is what I want. Even though he would say things like this, before you guys start saying mean things about him, he would also like make me lunch every day and let me stay at his place because it was way closer to my clinical area than where I lived. And he was still really, really supportive. He just wanted to show me that if I didn't like doing this, obviously because he sees how stressed and unhappy I am, that there were other options out there for me. And every day after coming home from whatever, like school or clinical, whatever I had to do that day, I didn't have time to just like, oh, finally relax. I had to study until late at night. But then I would see my boyfriend with his little marketing agency going out for lunch with his friends whenever he wanted and working whenever he wanted. And I was so jealous because my career and my path would never let me have that type of freedom. He basically showed me another way of life, and I realized that my perspective on life and career was so small. There are so many ways to make a living that I didn't even know of, and I realized that I don't have to commit this hard to something that makes me so stressed and so sad. I also worked a lot of jobs up until this point, and I was so burnt out, like from school, from working, and I realized that employers don't care about you, no matter how good you are to them, no matter how hard you work, how loyal you are. At the end of the day, you're still replaceable. And I quickly realized that every job is like this, no matter where you go. So yeah, he was kind of the one that introduced me to escape the rat race. Like, I feel like a lot of people get triggered by that. And I'm not saying like having a 9 to 5 is like a bad thing. It's just that what you do outside the 9 to 5 also matters a lot. I think a lot of people get offended by the term rat race because they think that, people are looking down on working class who work 9 to 5s. But that's not really the case. Rat race is kind of just the term for people who think that they can work a job and they're going to be set for life, but that's just not the case. There's so many things that you have to do for yourself if you want to live a better life. Let's talk about dropping out. At this point in the story, I drop out of class, okay? I didn't really have a plan. I met a girl near the end of my nursing career that started a lash extension business, and I was really inspired by that. Like setting up a workplace at home, like, oh, be your own boss, like boss babe. Scheduling clients, working whenever you want. So I started off there. I literally took my school loan money and I paid someone to teach me how to do lash extensions. So I started working from home to start off, with an income. And at the same time, I was working on social media. My boyfriend really pushed me to do social media at that time because he noticed that like my personal profile was just like doing numbers for some reason. He's like, you should post more. And then he kept like encouraging me and my page actually grew. So I didn't know like what the heck I was doing. I was just like posting as much as I can, doing whatever I can, trying different things, and literally figuring it out as I go. So that was the first year of dropping out. I would do lashes for income to support myself while I also pursued social media and trying to become a content creator. And my parents were so disappointed in me, and my dad was so mad. Like, he was scary mad. He was threatening me, saying that if I didn't go back to school in 6 months, he's gonna throw away all my lash equipment that I worked so hard and spent all this money on. Which never happened, by the way, but he was completely serious. Like, that was what my parents wanted, was for me to go back to school. So a lot of people ask me, do I regret it? And honestly, it was really scary to drop everything that I invested in. I definitely felt the effects of sunken cost fallacy. Like, that hit me so hard. But I'm glad I did it. I enjoyed lashing a lot more than like working a restaurant job, which was what I was doing for the past few years to pay for college. Even though I liked working at a restaurant job, I didn't like the fact that it was so unpredictable. Like, if my boss wanted to fire me, he could, and that was the end of that. Or like relying on other people to do their part of the job. Like, there's a lot of lazy people out there that you just have to work with. I didn't really like that. I preferred working on my own. My service is amazing, my lashes were amazing, and it was all like my results, like everything that I worked on and I achieved myself. And I feel like starting your own business, whatever it may be, it teaches you a lot of things. Like when you work at a job, you're replaceable. If anything goes wrong, like you could lose your job just like that, and that's like so scary. Like you're basically putting your future into someone else's hands. But if you have your own business and you have your own skills, like you make your own money. You can choose to take a rest, you can choose to earn more money, earn less money. Like your fate is in your own hands. And I like that a lot better. So if you have your own business and your own thing, you can also choose to either quit if you don't like it, or if you do like it but you're not doing well, you can learn and correct what you're doing wrong and maybe improve it and improve yourself. I don't regret dropping out of school, but I don't regret trying out the nursing program either. Like honestly, learning all the health and the science stuff was really cool. Like I genuinely enjoyed that part, and I know more about it than the average person, which is also really cool. And it taught me a lot about family and mortality. Like nobody is invincible to aging, and that I need to figure out what type of life I want so I can start building it. Like I don't want to waste my time or my life doing things that make me unhappy. And I think I did a really hard thing that time, which was taking a risk and betting on myself. It kind of put me in a position where I no longer have a safety net and income is not promised. I was just starting out in the world. I'm like, I'm gonna start my own business with zero life experience, zero business experience. Like, yeah, it was really scary. If I don't succeed in this, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. I might waste like so much time and money and get nowhere and end up having to go back to school and doing all this. It was really scary. But I also had to learn skills and become a person that is capable, worthy of making a living without an employer. And I think that's the most important part, and also the scariest part. And you have to learn a lot of self-discipline, because now you don't have anyone to tell you what to do, when to show up to work. I feel like I'm an amazing employee. I love having rules and following them. But when I make my own rules, I'm like, oh, whatever, like it's not that serious. And I honestly had trouble working hard for myself as hard as I worked for other people. I attribute all the growth and success that I've made so far in my 20s to that one decision to take the leap. It forced me to work hard and to learn a lot of things, to trust myself, to work on myself, and to even unlearn overworking, to value my time and my family and my health, because time is so fleeting and I should make every moment count. And I'm feeling this more and more as the years go by. Like my parents are becoming more elderly and I can see like their bodies are changing. They're starting to have health problems. Like I used to fight my parents all the time, but now I'm just like, oh my god. Like I don't know how much time I'm gonna have to hang out with them until like I'm gonna be moving out and starting my own family, because it's almost baby making age. Like what the heck? Anyway, I think this was probably the most pivotal thing I've done in my life, because I also really questioned myself. Up until this point, I was deluding myself, that I was gonna be a nurse and be a worker, be a healthcare professional, because that was a respectable job and people are gonna think like I'm such a cool and nice and whatever person saving lives. But the truth was, I didn't know what I wanted. I did want to help people, but you don't have to do something as dramatic as saving someone's life to help people. There are so many ways to help people. Like you can help people emotionally, financially. I can help people make their lashes pretty so they're pretty for their wedding or whatever. You know what I mean? That's also a form of helping people. And I think I chose this path because, one, my world was so small. I was too young and too inexperienced. I just didn't know any better. And number two, I wanted people to think highly of me because I didn't think highly of myself. And I thought I wasn't capable of doing anything else that I didn't know because nursing was quite simple. You know, like you just finish your degree and then you get a job and then you're a nurse and you're set. And then when I started doing like a business and doing my own thing, that was when I realized that I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I was like holding myself back. I had a lot of toxic traits and thoughts in my head and in my soul, and I had a lot of work to do if I was going to become a successful person. And I probably wouldn't have had to do all this work and self-reflecting if I took the easy route and just worked aimlessly as a nurse. You know, all I have to do is show up to work, go home, and then I'm free for the rest of the night or whatever. The money's secured and, you know, the living expenses are secured. That's it. I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't have to do any self-development. Also want to say that I'm not talking down on nursing. I hope it didn't come off that way. I actually respect nurses so much because I couldn't do it myself. You need a really big heart to be a great nurse. And my heart just isn't big enough for it. It's a hard job and they really do make a difference in so many people's lives. All I'm saying is that personally, I wasn't cut out for it. Maybe it's something I'll go back to in the future. So let's talk about what I'm doing now. Fast forward, I think it's like 4 years ago, maybe 5, that I dropped out of nursing. And like I said, I realized what I really wanted in life was actually early retirement, which sounds silly because of course like everyone wants that, but specifically I wanted to retire my parents and handle their debt so that they wouldn't have to stress in their old age, and that was my priority. I didn't care what I had to do to get there, so everything I did after dropping out of school was for this goal. And I tried a lot of things. I did lash extensions, which I still do to this day. It's been a few years now and I don't do them full time anymore like I did when I was starting out. But like I said, I don't do them as often anymore because the income from that is very insignificant. I tried Turo, which is kind of like Airbnb, but for cars. It's for renting out cars. And I tried e-commerce. I did crypto and I was an e-girl Twitch streamer / content creator. And over the years, I saved everything that I earned and I threw it into investments. In 2021, I think. I don't know which year it is, but whenever like NFTs were super hype, I think it was 2021. So I threw my life savings into NFTs and it went up, but I didn't sell because I thought that it would keep going up. Silly me. But that was also like the first time I ever started investing in anything. So yeah, like I made mistakes, whatever, I learned from it. But yeah, like I lost everything. And it was kind of scary. Like I made my first 100K and I threw in my, literally I threw everything in 100K and then I lost it all. I'm like, okay, like I'm just not going to open my crypto wallets anymore because I'm gonna cry. I was like, whatever, like I made the money, I can make it again, not a big deal. Which is obviously like so copium. Like of course I was sad, but I was gaslighting myself and saying like, oh, it's not that bad, like I can make the money back, you know, like the Lulu is the Salulu. Anyway, my e-girl career started to do really well in the past, I want to say 2 years or whatever. And the numbers were really good, but I started to hate it so much. It's probably because like I did so much self-development and, you know, became a lot more emotionally secure. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Like being an e-girl and capitalizing off of men ogling you can be good money, but it made me feel like such a joke. Like obviously nobody's gonna take me seriously. Everyone thinks I'm an airhead. And I kind of have to like play along with it and act like I am like an airhead. It felt like I was only worth my appearance and it was very like diminishing. I don't know if that's the word, demeaning, because that was how I presented myself to everyone online, and whatever people said about me was like kind of true, you know? Well, I knew it wasn't true, but then I had to play along and make it seem like it was true to convince people that like, yeah, I'm just some dumb e-girl online. So yeah, I'm kind of taking another big risk yet again, saying goodbye to this amazing income source that I've built over the years and starting all over again. But this time around, I think I can build a new audience who actually wants to hear what I have to say and will genuinely like the content that I'm actually proud of making and the content that I actually want to be making. I think all the e-girl social media stuff that I learned before, like, it wasn't a waste either, because I learned so much about social media and how to monetize and do all these things. Anyway, I'm a lot more confident and comfortable taking calculated risks now. I think I'm a lot more experienced, at least than I was before. I also want to say that although this is taking a risk for me, it's nowhere near as big of a leap as the one I took a few years back, because I've been earning and saving and investing very, very diligently over the years. So I kind of created like a safety net of income. And now my boyfriend is an amazing trader and he helps manage my money. So I don't have to worry about a thing anymore. I still have income even if I don't actively earn anything, thankfully. But that's a whole other topic. If you guys want a video on finances, I would love to make that for you guys and tell you guys about it. But that's everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching my video. I know this was a very long and rambly one, but I thought I would share my personal experience on taking a risk and jumping away from the traditional 9-to-5 pipeline, and hopefully help somebody who is feeling this way and deciding if they want to start their own thing or not. My rule is to always work on yourself, work hard, be honest, be accountable, and be happy. Because who wants to do business with like a sad and negative person? Nobody. If you're happy, you're gonna attract more people, more blessings, more everything. So I wish you the best. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys. Bye.